Okay, Commissioners, we're now going to go to public meeting items number 1 and 2. Public meeting item number 1 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-1091, block 605, lot 1, 100 Barrow Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District, a vacant lot within the church complex consisting of a federal-style church attributed to Clement Clark Moore and built circa 1821 to 1822. The row houses built in 1825 to 26, and a school building designed by Thomas M. Bell and built in 1950. This is an application to construct a new building. Item number 2 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-1090, block 605, lot 8, 657 Greenwich Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District, a school building designed by Thomas M. Bell and built in the early 1950s, with an addition designed by Barry Rice and built in 2012. This is an application to construct rooftop and rear additions and to modify openings. These applications were last presented on March 11th, 2014.
Let me open the hearing for this right now. Motion, second, public meeting, of course, but a hearing is open for purposes of hearing, of course, the applicants. So who's leading off? Tenzing.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tenzing Chansan, Preservation Staff. We'll be starting off with the application at 657 Greenwich Street, which is the school building. Presenting the application is Andrew Barrow. We'll go over the changes to the proposal based on the Commissioner's comments. That will be followed by 100 Barrow Street, which is the condo project that will be presented by Barry Rice, who's the architect for the project.
Good morning. Thanks for seeing us again. I'm here to present the changes to the design as per suggestions from the last meeting. A lot of the discussion revolved around color. So we've modified the color. You'll see on, Danielle's going to keep the left hand, the original proposal, and the new proposal on the right. You see the new color board stacked here. What we did is we made much larger pieces. You'll see in your book 4x4 panels that we took up on the roof of the school so you could see them against the brick. And we brought Landmark staff with us. And we all looked together and found one that we all felt was the right color, not too bright, not too dull, for the expression of the school. So the color was a significant issue. We modified it, and it's here for your review. The second issue that we wanted to address was the material. There was some sense that the aluminum panels that we were having colored were too bright and reflective, and that it would bring something to the neighborhood that we may not want. So we've switched to a fiber reinforced cementitious panel, which is detailed in a slightly different way. The aluminum panel was a wet seal, so it was a taut wall surface. This is a so-called rain screen, so there's like a 5/8 of an inch gap between the panels. So the wall breathes. It's actually better for energy. We like that. Turns out that it actually adds some benefits to the project we hadn't seen before. It has given us cause for redetailing and addressing an issue of the design that came up, which was the area here in the original one. Well, that's the new one, but I'm sorry, that's the original one. Here's the new one coming up. We modified this section because we took some opportunities with the rain screen design and made a sort of a bigger scale checkerboard so we get light into the gym through these slipping the panels, and then the glass of the gym wall is actually about 8 inches back. You can see it here, and you'll see in your booklet there's a drawing that shows the different dimension or different registers of the plane in terms of what's back from the 0 point. So this piece we've changed to now make them proud of this wall, which is fairly constant. The illusion that the panel is folding is made by perforating the panel only on one side, so to give a greater sense of depth and engagement, and also this kind of figure that's framed like one of the windows we feel works well with balancing the other big figures on the facade. We think it locks it in nicely. Moving a little closer, should we put that one up? You can see the way we've dealt with the relief issue with moving this kind of frame panel proud forward. There, and then Carl did another beautiful drawing showing how it's actually made. The fiber reinforced panel sits proud, it's perforated on one side to apply a shadow, and you can see the glass back.
What is the white framing material made
That's
out of?
aluminum.
That's aluminum. And that's the same for that?
Yeah, it's actually not white, it's sort of off-white. It's gonna be colored to match the copings on the existing building. It'll be kind of a dove gray. Looks a little brighter printed on the white paper. And then the last issue, well, we have a couple more details to kind of make you guys comfortable, we hope, with this design change here and the colors. So we've zoomed in on the photograph. That's the old one. This is the new one.
On that image, if you look at I'm a little bit confused. Now, you were saying that the panel that's immediately above the gable is proud,
Coplanar,
poked
it's
out?
coplanar with that.
It is, okay.
It
So
used
it's
to
set
come
back.
proud, it used to come proud. It's coplanar with this.
Okay, so
It's
it's
set
back.
back from this.
So it's like minus 12. It's a foot,
Right.
It's a foot back.
It's a foot back from the brick.
So,
Let me
okay.
see, have you got the section there, Carl? I'll show you that in the cross section. This is the one through the gym. We have another one. This, I think you can see in the section that it steps back. There are various planes back there. I'm sorry. There's a series of planar recesses that works with the way the original building was done with one light of brick back. Like the original Mr. Bell would shifted his planes with 4-inch modules, so we like that. We want to work with that. So that's what's going on.
Just one question. So the original building, what is there now? Just the brick, the 3 stories? What is on the site now?
No, it's kind of complicated what's there. There's a diagram in your booklet that I think shows it
Which
very.
booklet? We have 2 booklets.
We have a school book.
The white cover.
Okay, actually, this,
Okay, so the gray is what's there now.
the gray is what's there now.
Okay, thank you.
So some of our facade is made with the brick that matches the existing one, and some of it's made with the panel, gray screen panel system.
Okay.
It's kind of intricately interwoven in terms of, you may have missed the original presentation, but our idea was really to metamorphosis, to change and not to imitate, more to contrast directly, so our scheme moves vertically and develops its.
And to be clear on this diagram, these two panels are cementitious panels.
Correct.
And this one's brick.
Exactly.
Cementitious red, cementitious orange, brick.
Exactly.
And then in terms of the planes, since you're there, can you point out where it's stepping back?
Okay, this new brick, to match the existing one, is 4 inches back from that. This new cementitious panel is 4 inches back from that. So we like the way Mr. Bell made these pavilions, and we're restating that vertically, and giving them, we think, better proportions. The windows follow his tapering concept until we get to our top zone, which we claim to be our own, and have a different expression, and populate and provide figures along Greenwich Street.
Okay.
Let's show them we made some changes on the courtyard side. We got some comments, and I'll move this closer. The earlier design, and we appreciate these comments because I think they've helped us. We had modified our windows in our new part that is sympathetic to the existing one for an expression that I think maybe was unnecessary. So, and we also had a different expression for the new windows for the cafeteria that was following maybe a different logic. So what we've done is we've actually gone with a wood window manufacturer who can match the profiles of the existing building largely. So we're very close in profile to the existing buildings to further obfuscate what's new and what's old on the courtyard side, except for our expression of the kind of Greenwich Village Art Studio on the 4th floor, which remains as it was. I know Mr. Tierney's giving me the hook, I can see.
No. Now that
I elected to present this to you last time, and I realized Caroline and Dinzig told me I was remiss not to show you this. We're fritting that glass for energy reasons on the courtyard. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that recently, but it's cutting our energy bills down dramatically.
Good.
We have more drawings and details here that perhaps we will save for any questions, if more questions come up.
Any more questions? Let's perhaps discuss this and maybe deal with it and then go to the next item. Discuss it.
Well, I was a fan of the project before, but it's great to see this new material. I think it's actually providing a lot of design. It's adding to the wealth of the design, and I think makes the design concept clearer because of this approach with the larger scale panel. So I think it's a great project, very respectful of the existing building, and yet working with a necessary addition for the school.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the changes in color and materiality and the,
Number 2, it's
also some of the use of the
Libby's.
resources has really accomplished what we've asked for, and also at the same time has made something that, while it is distinct from the original and clear that it's not part of the original, still does not call undue attention to itself and works very well with the historic, is complementary to the historic material.
okay. Chris?
Yeah, I think it's quite fascinating and worked well.
Gosh, I wish I could like this more. For me, it feels like all the moves have been made right, and I think it's very thoughtful and really done well. I think the courtyard side is perfectly appropriate and fine, and a good blending of new and old. But for me, I just can't figure out why, but there's something about the connection between the new and the old that feels arbitrary to me, and that I think it's been improved. I think the material change is a significant improvement, but I just can't, I don't find that the front facade of the building is working with the new.
Okay, Joan?
I can support it. I think that it's playful, and I think the new material brings a lot of creativity to it, and yet it respects the historic facade, so I can support it.
Michael?
I think that the material and color change have brought it within an acceptable context for me.
Okay. Libby?
And I agree with all the comments. I can support it, and I think the material changes are a big plus.
Okay, agreed. Hearing on this one closed. Motion second. Marjorie, please.
In the matter of an application for a certificate of appropriateness, is this 627
You have number
Greenwich?
2.
Yeah,
You have it?
number 2,
Yeah,
okay.
5-7.
Yep.
657 Greenwich, right. An application is to construct rooftop and rear additions and modify openings. I recommend approval, finding that the St. Luke's Church complex has a history of change with various building types added and removed over time, including the demolition of the entire block of row houses, and the construction of a large visible rooftop addition is consistent with the history of change. That the street facade is simple and utilitarian, and therefore adding to the height will not detract from the style or character of the building. That the height and scale of the street wall of the building with its additions will be consistent with the other buildings in the complex. That the construction of the proposed rooftop addition will not result in damage to or demolition of any significant architectural features of the roof. That the height and massing of the proposed addition will mediate between the low scale of buildings in the church complex and the other taller building along Greenwich Street, and will preserve the architectural character of the streetscape and the historic district. That extending the existing brick masonry of the corner tower through the entire length of the building addition at the 3rd floor will make the building read as a 3-story brick building with a 1-story addition. That extending the brick masonry of the corner tower to the entire height of the proposed addition reflects the special treatment of skewed corner lots within the historic district and reinforces the tower as a theme within the church complex. That the top floor of the addition with its vertical windows with defined enfranements will recall the studio dormer windows typically found in this historic district. That the richly colored and variegated rain screen cladding will harmonize with the masonry colors and textures of the existing brick. That the patterned and perforated rain screen cladding of the addition over the gymnasium building will match the color of the brick material of the floors below while visually breaking up the massing of the gymnasium roof into smaller masses. That the materials, design, and details of the courtyard facing facade will harmonize with the other buildings facing the interior courtyard. That the proposed addition will maintain the existing footprint of the school building and will maintain the interior green spaces of the courtyard and around the church building. And that the additions over the gymnasium building with textured brick patterns will blend with the historic building materials and will not call attention to this feature and will be seen in the context of larger brick buildings behind it.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? One opposed. It's approved. Thank you. Now, open the hearing back up. Stay, well, you can, I guess you're leaving, but you all are staying, and we'll open this hearing again. This one, we're going to now go to number 2, correct, on our number 1 on the public meeting item. Motion and a second. The hearing's open. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're here to respond to comments from our last hearing from you all on 100 Barrow Street, an apartment building on the corner of Greenwich and Barrow Streets on the same block as Andrew's school building. I'd like to just begin by showing you some key images of the massing of the building as we presented last time, and to explain some quite significant changes we have made. First of all, to the massing, and second, to the detailing of the building. When we came to present last time, we had a building that was 153 feet tall, and we now have a building that is 121 feet tall, 32 feet lower. When we came last time, we had a building that had articulated setback, the street wall setback at the 5th floor, and it had various steps and made gestures at the rear of the building that, in the view of many comments we heard, made the building look too fussy and too busy. We've endeavored to simplify the building, make it more robust, more in the character of some of the larger residential buildings, and also, frankly, the archive building, with a continuous street wall to the maximum allowable 60 feet, as shown on here, and then setting back with a component in the building of a different expression on the top. The materiality of the building remains a composition that has a blend of brick, that is a mixture of the brick found on the historic buildings of this site. Our coursing has changed from a stretcher bond, this is a negative of it, where we emphasize the perpendicular joints required mortar, to a more traditional pallet. 3/8 joints and a Flemish bond throughout the bulk of the base of this building. That connects the building's materials with the 1830s townhouses on Barrow Street. Next image. So, just to explain in context, here's the archive building here. This is how our building reads in section now. This is how it read before. In fact, the building has been taken down to this level here. Next. Continuing the theme that Andrew had just explained with the 4-inch shift of plane along Greenwich Street with the Bell School building, we felt that we could use that device successfully in our building by anchoring the ends of the kind of taut skin, the brick skin of the building, with 2 pavilions, one of a townhouse scale or proportion here, and another one that marks the service entrance where it abuts the school here, and the rest of the skin is set back 4 inches and anchored by these 2 pieces at the end. The other thing, the device we've tried to use is to bring some of the material, the bronze material particularly, that is on the top of the building, that covers the structural elements, the column covers and slab edge, to reveal these by recessing key windows in the base of the building, and thereby exposing the lintels and the columns within these elements. So it gives a variation of scale that gives the building a distinct base, a central piece, and a top on the street wall. Which is this street wall that we're trying to emphasize is the key contextual element of the building as you look down Greenwich Street. Next. Just staying on the big scale for one more. The rear of the building, as you can see, is distinctly different in scale, and I think that it relates both to the scale of the surrounding medium-sized buildings as well as the archive building. As well, we've kept the breaking down of the building on the close side in reference to the scale changes in the townhouses at the rear. The rear of the townhouses, you might recall, are going to be combined into one landscape element that will become an object or a feature of the close that can be viewed from the public point of view, from the garden on the corner of Barrow and Hudson, and from within the more private area of the close through these slots here. The spaces in here will be occupied solely by residents of these rental buildings. This forms part of our project. There will be a small outdoor area here for residents of this building to occupy, to enjoy the garden. And so now you see we think we've tried to keep the character that we were trying to achieve on the close, but drastically changing the scale of the building that bounds it. Next. I will go through these ones fairly quickly because I think that they are just reinforcing the points I've already made.
That's fine. Good.
This is Barrow Street. This is the view through section through the site, looking at Andrew's building with the archive before and after. Thanks, Ian. Just to remind you, the building, Barrow, Greenwich, has an entrance on Barrow adjacent to the 1830s townhouses. The view to the garden here, this is the garden door here. So I want to take a little walk around the building to see how you experience the building at street level. First of all, the front entrance. The front entrance is adjacent to the last of the townhouses. The Flemish bond, it repeats the Flemish bond fabric of Barrow Street here, down to a belt course, which is also in Flemish bond. And then below this, we're marking the entrance with, we have stacked brick coursing all the way along the Barrow Street with the ends stacked in the middle and the side brick stacked on the perimeter. So there is in fact a pattern here that will show up in another drawing in a minute. The front door is bronze. You can see here the bronze lintels, slab edge covers in various key parts of the building, giving a different reading to these windows. The view from the garden on the corner of Barrow and Hudson through the arch is this view here, so this is a public view. These are the bronze doors that lead to the lobby inside, bronze railings, which are similar to these railings that we showed before here. All of the railing at grade will be a painted metal, as shown.
Before you leave
Yes.
it, what's the function of this door? Is this the main entrance to the building?
No. This is merely an outdoor area so the lobby can be open to get a view of the garden. There are certain occasions when the building wants to gather in that lobby. It's quite a celebratory space, so we'd like the opportunity to open to the outside.
Because I'm just a little curious in terms of your vocabulary, that this is clearly the main entrance, in fact recalls, I don't know, barons or something. I'm trying to remember who the Dutch architect is who has an entrance exactly like that. And then, but your real entrance to the building is kind of like a classic, you know, sort of sneak in the side entrance kind of entrance. I'm curious why you didn't pick up the vocabularies, you know.
Well,
between
okay,
those
I'll
two.
explain why. I was feeling that the expression of our building on Barrow Street should be a continuation rather than a recreation of the fabric of Barrow Street, because those existing buildings, given their size compared to our building, are rather fragile. And I thought a big move like this, a big gesture like this, creating a monumental entrance on Barrow would bring a whole new typology for entering a building on Barrow Street. That didn't feel appropriate. Here, I felt that it did because it's only viewed from within the close. It's part of the church compound. This is an archetypal form that you find at the base of a campanile, and indeed this loggia is another form. It just recalls that religious typology, if you like, of the campanile. We've got the church, we've got the school, we've got like the baptistry, the cathedral, and the campanile. And I felt that this would just provide some focus for an orientation of the axis for the focal viewpoint for the garden, which is now this long garden, sort of like a sunken garden, a secret garden. So this isn't really prominently viewed, but it's intended to provide some focus for this particular space.
Okay. Continue.
The entrance door, the detailing I was describing earlier, we have painted metal for the reasons of maintenance, which would be wrought steel painted abutting the street for the double height openings here. Bronze on the canopy, stacked bond either side of the entrance, flamed deer isle granite at the base of the building. This is essentially the palette. This is bronze aged to about 10 years approximately. Just to remind everybody, bronze starts like this. It's not our intention to have that on the building. The intention is to start it with an aging. This is 5 years, 10 years new. We want the building to start at this point and then to allow it to evolve and eventually get some green tinges similar to the front doors on this building down.
Is that your own
downstairs.
experiment? Has that been in your studio for 5, 10 years?
Now I can tell my story. Okay. So the aluminum windows are painted a colour that is called Midnight Oil, a favourite Australian band of mine. This is a 5-year sample of a door handle made for Bruce Springsteen's new house. It's 5-year age. So I have Midnight Oil and Bruce Springsteen providing the inspiration.
Okay, you asked, Marjorie, you asked.
Walking around the building, this is a view along Barrow and to Greenwich. The corner with a very subtle reverse reflection of the convex version into a concave on the corner, just a very subtle niche. I would like to think there's an opportunity here to perhaps have some art, perhaps cast bronze. I'm talking to Greg Lefebvre about this, maybe to mark the significance of this corner. It's a major entrance to the Greenwich Village Historic District. It would be a good point to mark that fact. Details of the windows that expose the lintels and the column covers within the base portion, within the street wall portion of the building. When we move up to the metal portion at top, we were trying to keep the fenestration as simple as possible. To do this, we've actually, these are fixed pieces of glass here. There is no operable section. We're minimizing the exposed sight lines of any metal that is not column cover or slabbage here. In this system, there will be another portion of window behind these fins that will provide for ventilation. So these will open full height. Kids can't fall out. We won't have window guards. We won't have other things in there. So these will happen for ventilation in the upper portion. These represent the column covers and slab edge covers of the structure of the building. You can get a glimpse here of the railing at the top. Now, not all of these elements will be bronze. The fin piece will probably be part of the window aluminum piece. But the intention is to have those painted metal pieces painted this color of 10-year bronze. It will fit for a while and then it will look different over time. But that's sort of how we wanted the building to start. And then finally, second to last, as you get to the top of the building sets back the top apartment. It's a single apartment on the top floor. We'll have a wraparound terrace. It'll have railing, recalling the brick pattern from below, a brise-soleil, and there will be another railing on the roof because part of the use of this building is going to be to have landscaped outdoor spaces at the 6-story street wall. At the roof level up here, there will be very low light material to provide a green roof here. And apart from providing energy efficiency for the building by having a green roof, this has the added benefit of, on these floors where we have the setbacks, to keep all the furniture and paraphernalia back close to the building so it's not messing up the streetscape.
Okay. Further questions? And before I'm still digesting Bruce Springsteen in my head. But anyway, that was a Margie, was that question rehearsed?
Just the,
Go ahead.
the floor heights in the, what I'll call the new metal and glass, what are the floor
Yes.
heights in those? That,
Floor height's at 10'8" from memory, but let me just get that drawing.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I know it's probably in here somewhere.
I mean, could you take
Or you
these?
can just
Yes.
tell me which, hunting for it here.
10'8" on the upper piece, 10'6" clear ceiling.
Okay. All right, we'll start discussion. Michael Goldblum, please.
Boy, the possibilities for puns are you just opened the door with that doorknob, but I'm not going to walk through it, but it's hard to resist. I think this scheme has improved significantly. I think for me, the greatest concern was that although I thought the earlier building was perfectly attractive, I didn't think that it felt appropriate to the district and more specifically to the immediate surroundings in which it was proposed, where the church is the central focus of a block. And I think that by reducing the height and reducing the monumentality of the tower portion, the building, as viewed from the church, will feel more subsidiary while retaining the echoes that the architect has intended in the first place. I think that the view from outside of the block has also been significantly improved, whereas before the building was of a different typology than one finds in this district, something perhaps more familiar on Central Park West or something, where you have a kind of Art Deco tiered affair with a tower as its center. The view from outside of the block to the west and to the south is now, I think, much improved as well, in that it feels more akin to its neighbors, more typologically correct in the area in which it is located, where the blocky building at the base recalls the building across the street, and the upper portion, the glass portion, feels like a kind of a light setback tower that differentiates itself from the base and doesn't mitigate the base, doesn't pull away energy from the base, and the base stays simple and industrial in quality. Not industrial, but kind of the massing feels akin to its industrial neighbors, or formerly industrial neighbors. I think the detailing is subtle and thorough, and I really think that every aspect of it's been considered. There are some particulars that I think could have been done differently and would have made it a better building, but I think that it is, in general, quite appropriate to the location, and I'm happy to vote for it.
Okay, Joan, please. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I agree with those comments, and I did not see the first presentation in March, but I think that after seeing what was presented then and seeing what you're presenting now, I think that this is much more appropriate, and I think it's very respectful to the historic district. And I like the idea that we have the heavy base and then the light upper tower, which also relates well to the district. So I can support it. And also the quality of the materials are extremely high, so it's beautiful.
Michael?
Much more restrained, and I thank you for a well-thought-out building and a well-presented application. I can approve this.
Libby?
Yeah, I think given all the different types of buildings that surround this, that you need to be able to, relate to, perhaps this is the only way that could have been done successfully. And I think given the materials and the design revisions, we can accept it.
Chris?
I agree, restrained and refined, fits very well.
Yeah, I think this is an enormous improvement over the prior solution, and I think actually it's LM06 that for me is the drawing that shows why this is the appropriate solution. It's the image that shows the building in complete context of the block on which it sits, the historic district in which it's located, and also the archive building, which by coincidence is across the street, that's a reference. And so it's completely within scale and form of the buildings within the district. It responds in scale and form to the block on which it's sitting, both also in terms of materials. And yeah, I think it's enormously improved. My only comment is, especially, I'd say that the view that's taken from this LM06 is the most convincing of it. But my only comment really is that the base might have a stronger cornice. I feel like that's a little bit weak, but that's something that could, it's still in the design process. I really appreciate how carefully the materials have been studied, and I know that the architect will continue to refine and improve on the little details, so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I overall pretty much agree with Michael Golden's comments, and I won't repeat all of them. I do think it is much more contextual and appropriate, and I do think that I really like the design details and think that they work very well. I would have been happier to see it maybe a floor or two shorter, but I guess in the context of the large building on one side of it, that it can work in this district. And I know there are other larger buildings, just a couple of the other buildings I'd like it to resonate by being a little bit lower, but I guess I can approve it in the context of this, as I said, the larger building right across from it there.
Okay, greatly improved. Process has worked. It's appropriate for the district. It's appropriate for this important institution of St. Luke's in the Field. So I'm glad it's come out this way, and I'm very happy to support it. And with that, close the hearing with a motion and second. Michael Goldblum, please.
Okay. Regarding 100 Barrow Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District, the application is to construct a new building. I recommend approval, finding that the existing parking lot historically had row houses built on the site, and that the current condition creates a gap in the otherwise densely built streetscape, and that the construction of a building at this site will help to complete the street wall and reestablish this corner as a close to the church complex. That the Greenwich Village Historic District has a variety of buildings, with taller buildings on corners facing the wider streets, and that the construction of a taller building at the corner of Greenwich Street and Barrow Street is in keeping with the general character of the district. That the site is at the periphery of the historic district, facing taller 19th century manufacturing and warehouse buildings across Greenwich and Barrow Streets. And while these buildings are outside of the historic district, they reflect the historic development at this intersection. That the site is part of a larger full block institutional complex that has seen much change throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. That this complex has historically featured both residential and institutional buildings, and it evolved throughout the 19th and 20th centuries to accommodate the new uses and the institution's needs, resulting in the demolition of buildings and the construction of new buildings of varying sizes and types. And the construction of the proposed apartment building will be consistent with the evolution of this institutional complex. That it is not uncommon for institutional complexes to have buildings that do not follow the form or massing of the buildings in the immediate surroundings, that the two-volume massing of this building and variation in materials between the two volumes breaks down the bulk of the building, which will help to mediate between the smaller buildings in the complex and the larger ones across the street. That dividing the composition of the building into two distinct but architecturally integrated volumes will help the base to read as a street-level element and the top to read as a secondary cube that independently evokes the traditional massing of buildings in this historic district. That the height and massing of the lower volume is consistent with the height and massing of historic buildings found in adjacent streetscapes in this historic district. That the material of the proposed building's base, which is predominantly brick, will echo the materials palette of the complex and the historic district as a whole. That the base of the building's height, modularity, and proportions are taken from the existing historic buildings and will reinforce the rhythm of the street wall. That the proportions and shapes of the masonry openings and depth and shadow lines of the facade will relate well to the historic buildings of the complex. that the rounded brick corner of the building reflects the special treatment of corner lots within this historic district and will reference the corner of the school building, that the bronze and glass materials of the upper cube will create a contrast to the mostly masonry buildings with punched openings found in the historic district in a manner that enhances the character and materiality of these buildings, that the use of high-quality materials, including solid bronze and patterned brick, reflects the richness of the materials evident in the historic buildings throughout the district, that the bronze will be integrated into the lower volume at the window enframements, tying the two volumes together in terms of materiality, that the depth of the window reveals the patterning of the brick, and the profiles of this bronze skeleton provide a depth and articulation commensurate with the qualities of the decorative features of the historic buildings in the district, that the rear facade of the building, comprised of a central tower, brick tower over an archway, flanked by lower building elements, recalls the church tower and reinforces this motif as a prominent feature of the St. Luke's complex, that the metal canopy over the entrance is well scaled to the entrance, is simple in design, and will not call undue attention to itself, and that the materials, design, and details of the rear facade, which faces into the interior green spaces, will harmonize and complete the interior court.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's recused.